West when the saloon, the gun center, the bum.
School. It's 3 o'clock. If everyone could please find a seat. I'd like to welcome everyone in the Cherokee room and those that are viewing the live and or recorded session on YouTube. Hopefully my voice makes it throughout the meeting. I'll do my best. To those in the room, please silence your cell phones. As usual, we'll try to keep this meeting to an hour, and the last portion of it will be a Q&A. We're going to ask that you hold your questions until the Q&A. And this time we're going to do a little bit different. We don't want you to line up at the microphone. We're going to ask you to raise your hand and we'll call you to the microphone to try to keep it a little more organized. We're also going to display some Q&A ground rules on the screen when we're in that session. So we require and request that you follow those ground rules. So to start the meeting, I'd like to start with a pledge of allegiance. Those with a hat, please take it off. And we do have a flag here today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, so up on the screen is the agenda that we're going to follow today. The first order of business is for us to approve the annual meeting minutes from August 5th. Can I have a motion to approve? Second? Second. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, 2023 annual meeting minutes are approved. Okay. Okay, I'm done. So it's up to the...
I'll take it from here. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out today. Hopefully you'll find some informative information that we're going to talk about as we go through my report. We're going to talk about four things in different groups. The first, obviously, you can hear the activity that's going on next door. We'll talk about the Activity and Wellness Center construction update. We'll talk about some things around the community and Clubhouse. We always do at our quarterly meetings give a security update. And then we also give a financial and investment update for the POA as well. So, as anyone has seen as they come by the Clubhouse, the Activity Wellness Center is starting to move along pretty quickly. It is quote unquote dried in now where all the windows have been installed. Currently, we are running electrical and low voltage wiring. I saw the insulation guys are here as well. So they're starting to run the insulation. Hopefully in the next few days, we'll start doing drywall on the ceilings. And then we'll move from the ceilings to the walls once we get all the wiring completed. Duke Energy, supposedly, we're supposed to be here this week, but it doesn't appear that's going to happen. But we're not in it. It's not a major rush, but we do have to get a new transformer for the new building from Duke Energy. We've done our part where we have cut out the area that they will be running their wiring, and basically the new transformer will be where where the little walkway used to be from the parking lot to the clubhouse, and then we'll be creating a new walkway once the new building is complete. The hardscaping continues. That's a nice smoke you probably all, or rock cutting you saw when you were coming in. Hopefully he'll be done here in the next week or so. And once he's complete, we'll probably start some of the initial landscaping work as well, especially the trees, because this is the time of year, best time of year to start planting some of your bigger trees and shrubberies. So we'll start that as well. We are close to budget. We've had a couple things that we've added, what I've called change orders. We have 2 change orders so far. And these are what I'd call long-term investments. We spent about $50,000 more than what we had budgeted. The biggest one that was the original plan where we had the decorative rock, had about a 2-foot section below the rock that was actually wood. And we decided that wasn't a good idea since we have a concrete and block wall. So we decided to go ahead and extend the decorative rock all the way to the foundation. As you know, that building's pretty big. So 2 feet tall. But that basically means where that building is now, there will be no rot potential at all in that building because it's basically block and decorative rock is all it consists of. We are still on budget. I mean, not on budget, on target to meet our opening date, which we think will be, we're shooting right now for April 1st. We tentatively have the equipment coming in March 12th. We'll probably, either move that up or back depending on our schedule as the project continues. So we're looking pretty good as far as the project goes. The renovation of all the gatehouses is pretty well complete now. The road resurfacing for the year is complete. The asphalt plants have closed down. We luckily were able to squeeze in the major repair we had to do over at Agugu last week after Carolina Water did an intensive changing out of their main line along Agugu. They are going to be open next week for a couple of days, so we are going to get a couple more loads to do some final patching. But once we get through next week, that will be over because we will have no access to asphalt after that. Leaf blowing continues. I think we're going to finish that up this week, hopefully. We get those little petals that are falling now, so we'll get them all out of the way. The clubhouse painting project, I lied. When I wrote this last week, I thought for sure they'd be done, but they're not. They're finishing up a couple odds and ends around here, but almost done. The food and beverage operation as a whole continues to exceed our sales projections. So far, we're 10 months into the year, and every month, all 10 months, we've exceeded our projections. So we are getting a high usage of the membership for the clubhouse, so that's great to see. Moving the dinner service up here to the second floor has resulted in a much more efficient operation where we can run basically 2 different or 3 different type of outlets out of the one kitchen. So we beat both year-over-year numbers for October for both the grill and upstairs, basically doing this new venue process that we're doing, and we were able to basically cut our overhead. And when I say overhead, I'm talking labor, pretty much in half. So October was a really good month for us for our food and beverage service. We did add a pool table to the Blue Ridge Lounge. I think that we will be sending out the information on how you can reserve that pool table. Am I right, Lance, on that? Coming out in the next Friday flyer, I think. But we do have a pool group as well now. And it actually doubles as a great large table for when we have our Saturday night events in the Blue Ridge Lounge. The new member website, I basically got a new information today. Another update. That we thought we had everything. Well, I guess we don't have everything, but we will be finalizing that here in the next couple of weeks, we hope. And if so, we hope to go live early January on the new website, which will be a totally different look and totally different navigation of how you use the current website. I think you'll see a vast improvement on how you'll be able to use the website to get valuable information on what's going on here at Conacy, because at some point we want to be able to push everyone to the website for any information they may need. And then we will be rolling out in our mobile app, probably here in the next, month or so, Lance, give or take, for both event sign up and dining reservations on our mobile app and the website as well. So you'll be able to go online and book reservations for dining and events. And then the golf operation, I skipped that one. And that's similar to food and beverage so far. All 10 months of the year, golf has exceeded their budgeted revenues every month for 10 months. A lot of credit goes to Tom Shepard, our superintendent's done a great job, even during the major drought we had here. Who would have thought we'd go almost 2 months without rain? But he was able to do a good job and keep the course in good shape, and we continue to get a lot of repeat business on the golf course. From a security perspective, we've had no reports of any major criminal activity since our last quarterly meeting. The gate access via the RFID, implementing the early part of 2024. And then at some point, we will deactivate the barcodes, and the RFID readers will be your access into the community. The main difference with an RFID reader versus a barcode reader is the RFID card readers are much more, they're more sensitive. You don't have to slow down as much. You don't have to stop and go back and forth sometimes because the barcode's hard to read. The RFID reader picks that signal up as soon as you start going towards the gate, going toward the gate. And they're a lot less visible as well. So Mike, who's here in the room somewhere, his crew is fully staffed now. And we've had a couple different turnovers, but right now we are fully staffed, which has been great. That allows us to continue to have both daytime and nighttime roving patrols. Because when we are short-staffed, that's where it ends up coming from, because you got to keep people at the gates. So that has helped out tremendously. The A&W Center will be used for access, will be the same as what you're using now with your fob for the pool. And over time, we will start adding more access control at other buildings within the community as well, whether it be Wantesca or the barn down at the dog park. So all our buildings where we have access for meetings and so forth will all be secured, and access will be granted through your fob. From a financial perspective, as you all hopefully know, we sent an email. The proposed 2024 budget was approved by the members by 68% in favor and 32% against. So what that means is your annual assessment for improved lot will be $3,924 for next year, and for an unimproved lot, it'll be $2,354. Year to date through October, the CFPA is $83,000 worse than budget. $50,000 that shortfall is due to the unplanned expense of updating all 4 of our lake dam emergency action plans. There is a new state requirement that every 10 years, you must update your EAPs. Ours are last done around 13 years ago, but this new state statute went in place a couple of years ago, and when they did their dam inspections this year, I don't want to say they caught us on it, but they noticed that our EAP was over 10 years old, so they're required to do that. So what's happening is there have been some minor dam failures throughout the state, and they are requiring all new modeling on how you model different breaches and different level of breaches. And then you have to do an impact study of who would impact downstream. You have to get a roster of all the people that would potentially be impacted and have them on your list, so you have contact information for all those people that are potentially impacted. So it's a pretty long process. It's been almost a 4-month process to update all the EAPs, but we are ready. I signed off on them yesterday, and they should be getting submitted to the state either later this week or next week for hopefully approval. And then the other there's another $45,000 overspent on the road repairs and overlays, and that's just basically due to an asphalt increase price from the year before. So all the other departments are pretty much in line and make up for any of those other overages. The amenity fees year to date are 1 short of budget, but the good news is before coming to this meeting, we did have 10 closings that went through in the month of November. So now actually we'll be ahead after the month of November, which is pretty good comparatively. I know we have some realtors in here. The first 4 months of the year were pretty slow, and we had budgeted to do 80 resales, and we only had like 15 at the first quarter. So there was some concern we may not make that, but we've now not only made it, but it looks like we're going to exceed on what we had budgeted. So that's good news as well. Hopefully you all know, or if you don't know, last year the board had sent out some communication to the community that they wanted to revise the investment policy. We discussed that with the community and had a couple of meetings on that. And based on the feedback, the board went ahead and approved the new investment policy. Prior to the investment policy being approved, we basically had to keep all our money in cash, basically saving account. We were making zero, basically. So it's still a very conservative approach, but what we can do now based on the investment policy is we can invest our monies. And what we have, the slide shows you here, is we basically have $7.3 million sitting in our reserve funds, our capital reserve funds, that we now have invested, still very conservative, 66% in cash and short-term, meaning T-bills normally. And then we have 34% allocated into medium and long-term, which are mostly equities. There is some precious metal in there too, like 2%. And then in our operating cash, we have $2 million, and that's all tied into cash and short-term. But the good news is even on short-term, on T-bills for 30, 69 days, you're getting some pretty good returns on those. So overall, year to date on this slide, may be hard for you to see, but for the quarter, since this is a quarterly meeting, we'll talk about that. We're roughly at 1.31% return on the investment for the quarter, but you'll notice that the major part of that is there's a minus 3.17% in equities. And remember, this was for the quarter ending, not this quarter, it would have been the third quarter. And that's when the stock market was having a little hiccup. But now most of that's all been made back in this last quarter. But if you look at the overall 12 months which is what I look at, the annual, we're basically looking at a 4.5% return on our investment, which is pretty good considering that, 70% of it's tied up in what I'd call risk-free type of investments. If you put that number in comparison, and I know Craig's in the room, he can probably talk. I think the overall number of actual cash, what I'd call dividends or interest, is like close to $300,000 we made in our returns. Is that right?
Overall return.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like $350,000. So compare that to the year before, we made like, I think 50, if that. So it's been a great change to create this investment policy that gives some flexibility to the finance committee and board to use our money a little bit more wisely. With that, I will pass it off to Brent again.
Okay. Today, I'm going to touch briefly on what's been going on at the newly acquired property, a little bit on what's going to happen in our RV storage locations as far as the rental form goes, and then we'll just quickly review the CFPOA mission goals and the board operating principles that can be found in the board policy manual. So last year, we purchased 20 acres of land just off the tennis court that went before the community for a vote, and we acquired that last year. And since then, the trail builders have been up there for the last 3 months or so, refurbishing trail, building new trail, taking advantage of that new property. So it previously was just an out and back that went from Tilly Court to the walking track. And now the trail builders have been in there, as I said, for several months. And about 90% of the trail in there is now new, and 10% is refurbished of the old trail. And it's now a 1.5 mile loop trail. And I walked it yesterday, and it's really a very, very nice addition to our trail system. The trailheads, like I said, are located near the tennis court, right next to the restroom area. And then there's another one on Tilly Court, which is back off the Canascal. And then I can't say the name, Dotsy something, but it's a very nice trail. And then also, and it's been in the Friday flyer, this coming Saturday, there's going to be a trail grant and the trail stewards, and that's going to start at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning and last till about noon. And you can go on guided hikes with either trail stewards or some of the trail builders that are there. But again, I encourage those that are able to do it. It's a very nice walk. It's not very much elevation gain. Certainly a lot compared to Florida, but only a couple 100 feet of elevation gain, which isn't too bad for this area in our trail systems. We're blessed to have the trail systems. Here's a map that the trail builders had put together, and it basically shows. It may be hard to see, but the tennis courts are at the top. The orange is the old original trail. And then the loopy blue part is the newly constructed and refurbished pieces. So it's very, very well constructed. And it has some nice viewpoints up by where the water tower is, probably some of the better viewpoints inside the community if you've never been up there. Yeah, I'd mentioned the RV park rental process is going to change this year, very similar to what we had done last year with the watercraft storage. It's going to be a new rental agreement that those that use the property to sign, and there'll be the rules and regulations associated with it, just like with the watercraft. It's going to be on the back of the form that you need to fill out and get to administration this year. What we're trying to do is keep the parks properly maintained, meaning the equipment that's in there. So every year we're going to inspect the property that's in there for compliance with the rules and the regulations. And owners of property to found out of compliance, we'll contact them, give them an opportunity to remediate. But by December 31st, they need to get it back into compliance with what the rules and regulations state. If there's folks that we can't get a hold of, we'll try multiple times to get a hold of them, but any failure to act, it's going to be treated like abandoned property in accordance with North Carolina state laws. Just as a quick review, the CFPOA mission goals are to promote Conisty Falls as a unique community to current and future members, provide quality amenities, infrastructure and services, and preserve our natural environment and sustain the CFPOA's financial health. And our board operating principles are, and these are in our board policy manual, which is on the website, is to balance owner priorities, take care of what we own, plan for our future, and build positive, strong relationships. Okay, at this point, we'll do the board initiative updates. The pool enhancement project, community growth management plan, community rules and regulation study, and envisioning the future clubhouse, improved cellular service, and our rental property initiatives. So I'll do the pool enhancement. Donna's Aiken Coleflesh will do the growth management plan and rules and regs. Richard Zollinger will do the envisioning the future clubhouse. Jim will speak to the improved cellular service, and I'll speak to the rental properties. So the pool enhancement project proposal, as we know from earlier this year, it was deferred and will be reconsidered again in 2024 when the Finance Committee is satisfied that the reserve fund, the amenity reserve fund, is getting to a number where they're comfortable completing that project without putting us at risk for future opportunities. So we're hopeful that, with construction bid and construction contractor availability, hopefully improving, hopefully we can negotiate better and hopefully find additional contractors that would be interested on bidding on the pool. As you may recall, there was only one firm that was interested in our pool project. And as things move forward, we'll continue to keep the public informed, the community informed on how things are moving forward. And obviously, this is something that will require the community to vote on to proceed with that project at the time where we feel that it fiscally makes sense for the community. Donna?
Trying to stay on short.
Just trying to help out.
Which button are we using? The down arrow button? Okay, thanks. Thanks for the reminder. Good afternoon, everyone. Like to add my thanks to Brent for everybody coming out today. We appreciate you being here. The last we heard from the Build Out Task Force was at the annual meeting in August when Dave Hunter, the BTF lead, kind of gave an overview of where things stood at that point. And at that time, the board had been in receipt of the recommendations from the Build Out Task Force. There were 18 in total and had not yet completed their review and evaluation of them. So I'm just going to kind of tell you what's going on at this point. There's a few, I just wanted to share a couple of the recommendations that the BTF made. And the first one is consider accelerating amenity fee increases to reflect market demand for Conisty Falls. Every year during the budget planning process, the Finance Committee and administration and the board look at what the quote, buy-in or the amenity fee should be for the following year. The recommendation from the Build-Out Task Force was to kind of evaluate whether increasing or accelerating the level of increases each year to a specific level could really help in terms of financially when it comes to slowing down perhaps some development in Conisty Falls so that we don't grow too quick. Another of the recommendations was to take a look at construction-related fees compared to other communities like Conisty Falls to see if it's perhaps time to raise some of those construction fees in a manner that might slow down development in the community and building new homes and lessen the impact on our infrastructure of new construction. We think that, you know, when you're building a house that's going to be listed for $1.5 million, our construction fees are probably a drop in the bucket. But overall, the board felt it's really worth taking a look at that. And that's something that Jim Whitmore and his team is going to be taking a look at for the 2025 budget planning process. One of the things that several members of the Build-Out Task Force spent a lot of time in doing when they inventoried all of the lots in Conisty Falls, both the CFPOA-owned lots and the privately owned lots, was categorizing them. And they built on work that had been done a number of years ago, but they categorized them as select. So these are the top of the line lots that wouldn't need a lot of variances. They're the most buildable lots. Contingent lots might need a variance, might need, you know, to be tweaked here and there in order to make them buildable. Lots that are questionable and just lots that are not for sale, either because the POA needs them for maintenance or infrastructure purposes, or because the Natural Resources Stewardship Committee has asked us to not ever sell those lots because of certain considerations. So it was a recommendation of the BTF that we formally adopt those categories. The board agreed with that, and we're going to do that. And the second piece of that is to develop an online digital color-coded map of the community that will work hand in hand with those lot categories. So it will be a valuable tool for administration and the board when doing planning, also a valuable tool for the Natural Resources Stewardship Committee, because it will allow us to see where we might have contiguous lots that perhaps should not be sold because they can be turned into green space, for example, or contiguous lots that maybe the Natural Resources Stewardship Committee think we shouldn't sell because of environmental considerations, so that we can group those together, merge those, turn those into green space or whatever. So I believe development of that is in process. I have, yeah. It's done? Oh, okay. I was out of the country for a few weeks, so I missed that. But okay, so that's done. So that's going to be a good tool for the community. And I think we're going to make that available at some point on the member website, correct?
Well, we have PDF.
A PDF of it, right. Good. Another one is the suggestions, and we had already talked about this in August because we had already done it for the year, is to limit the yearly sales of POA-owned lots to about 10, give or take, based on the financial impact to the budget in any given year. So in 2023, Jim Whitmore looked at the budget at a point where at some point and said, okay, we have met our objective financially for lot sales for the year. And so at that point, he talked to the board and we said, we're not going to sell any more POA-owned lots in 2023. That will be done on an ongoing basis now based on a BTF recommendation. We'll look at that every year. The give or take, it might be 11 lots, it might be 12, it might be 9, depending, and that will be at the GM's discretion. But again, it's something we're looking at to kind of not overload our infrastructure with a lot of new development based on selling POA on lots. It will also put more pressure on so those are just a few of the suggestions from the Out of the 18 total suggestions, the board readily, right out, accepted 11 of them. 5 of them, we said, we're probably not going to do this right now, and 2 of them said, we're going to look at this more to see if there's a different way that we can do what was suggested, but we're going to be tracking those on our action item list moving forward. So with the board thanks, the BTF really exceeded expectations of their charge in that they took a multi-year project and completed it in about 10 months under Dave Hunter's leadership. So thanks to all of them for their efforts. So let's talk about the Community Rules and Regulations Study. This is also known as the RRTF, or the Rules and Regulations Task Force. At this point in time, the team has done their first pass review of all of the sections of the rules and regulations, which I'm here to tell you was a non-trivial task. These guys under Brian O'Neill's leadership put hours and hours of work into doing red line markups of all the sections. In each section, they worked with the responsible community group, committee, club, whether administrative staff member, board, whoever, to get their input before any revisions were teed up for board review. About 30% of the sections have been through initial board review and comment and sent back to the RRTF. The way the process will work from here is that we'll continue with the board review and comment of the revised articles. Sometime starting in the first quarter, we are going to start routing or sending out the revised articles for community feedback. So we're not going to send you however many there are. I think there are 20 right now, 20 sections for review and feedback all at one time. That's not going to happen. So we'll group them logically. The biggest one, obviously, is the A&E rules. So that will be sent out separately for community feedback. Then we will have a series of public meetings where members can come in and share their feedback on the revisions. It's been a while since we've tackled a complete overhaul of the rules and regulations. So there's a lot of work to be done. Just a reminder that a member vote is not required to revise the rules and regulations, but member feedback is a very important part of the process. And we want to make sure that everybody is heard in this process as we go through revising all of these. I want to just say thanks to Elena Harbeck and Susan McCarthy, Nancy Marshall, and Jean Rowe for their ongoing efforts. They've been with the team since the beginning under Brian's leadership and have agreed to carry through with this initiative into 2024. I also want to thank former board member Brian O'Neill for staying on with this project after he left the board. I will be taking over leadership of the team from this point forward so that Brian can focus on some other things. Y'all might know that he's a member of the Transylvania County School Board at this point. I think he has his hands full. We look forward to it. Right now, we're targeting probably realistically June of next year to be finished with this effort because there's still a lot of work to be done. Thank you. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Zollinger to talk about the Clubhouse.
Thank you, Donna. Envisioning the future of the Clubhouse is part of the comprehensive long-range facility master plan to simply answer the question, what is the vision of a future Clubhouse look like? The Facilities Planning Committee is currently evaluating the existing Clubhouse structure. There are parts of the building that are over 50 years old and causing some concerns of infrastructure. The Facility Planning Committee is also looking for ways to maximize existing infrastructure that we could incorporate in the vision of a future Clubhouse. And it is important to know that this is not taking action to build a new Clubhouse. It is simply to develop vision and concept of a future Clubhouse. Thank you.
I am tall. So cellular service, one of the things that is one of the top topics every year when we do a survey or even a new member survey to all the new homeowners is, when are we going to improve our cellular service? I wish there was an easy answer. Right now, we are in the process, and Lance has been spearheading this, is working with Transylvania County EMS. They are obviously very intent on trying to improve cellular service as well, because it hinders their ability to do their job as well. So we are in discussion with them, and we also have a member here who has some good connections in the DC area. And there are potential grants that can be used for this type of project. So we are just, scratching the surface of how we may be able to go forward with getting a grant. The big thing that we want to make sure we're doing here is this not initiative that we're doing just to help Conacy Falls, because that's not going to get us anywhere. That's why we want to partner with the county emergency medical or emergency services so that they can be the spearhead of any type of application that we may send in for consideration. And most likely this would be a state grant, basically from the discussion we've had from the two consultants who basically handle how you go through the process of getting grants. So again, early stages, I'm not saying I'm excited or not excited, but at least it's a road to discuss and figure out if there is some avenue that can not just help Conacy Falls, but help Transylvania County as a whole for all citizens to be able to get better emergency services. That would be the ultimate goal. And if it just so happens that we get better service, that's a bonus for us. So we're not talking to them just about potentially saying we want the tower here on Conacy property, but we obviously would like it somewhere where it would benefit as many of us as possible. The other good news, and I'm not sure whatever everyone's different providers, I'm a Verizon customer. I actually was in Asheville a couple weeks ago talking to one of the main Verizon executives in the Carolina area. And he just so happened to see that I was wearing a Conacy Falls shirt and mentioned, oh, he goes, you're from Brevard. And I told him, he said, oh, we're starting to roll out our 5G in Brevard. And what they're doing is they're working their way from Asheville down 280 all the way to downtown Brevard. And I've noticed now there's, the other day I was at the Overlook, right past the main gate, and I had 5G service at the Overlook. I only had it for one day. Next day it wasn't there. But obviously they're working on rolling it out, and they're probably bringing the systems up and down while they do the testing. But you'll start seeing, if you're a Verizon customer, you'll start seeing 5G on your phone in different locations that you never saw before. Pretty much now through most of Conacy, I don't get phone calls, but my phone is ringing more than it used to, but I'm pretty much getting texts throughout the community when I'm with my phone, that never happened before. So we are seeing some improvement, at least from a Verizon perspective. I have heard that AT&T and T-Mobile are also looking at doing the same thing, starting that rollout, coming down 280, and at some point going all the way up to 64 through Toxaway and so forth. So, so there might be some room for looking that we might have some improvement here in the near future. Oh, sorry.
I'll let you have this.
All right, the next topic, is probably what, I'm a little shorter than Jim. Next topic will be on the rental property initiative and a recap of what's transpired recently. We've received a lot of feedback on the action, and member feedback has been, majority of it has been favorable and in support of the board's decision to address the short-term rentals. The short-term rentals is not a new situation here in Conacy Falls. It's been something that's been on boards going back and management as far as 2012 that we have record of, and probably further back than that. So the first step in the process was we sought a formal legal opinion on our existing CFPOA governing documents, and the board and management took action on that opinion to enforce the existing restrictions on short-term rentals that are in our governing documents. On the 8th of November, an email was sent out, as well as communicated via U.S. Postal Service mail to the entire membership, And we followed that up with another communication on the 15th of November based on feedback and obvious concerns. And we created some FAQs, and those were also distributed and will continue to be distributed. So with that, the next portion is the Q&A. But before we get to that, there's a statement that I want to read that we in the board and management have put together. And this is it. So regarding the board's obligation to enforce the restrictive covenants, we're happy to receive and record and consider your comments on the issue today. However, we have recently been made aware that a group of our members is in the process of retaining legal counsel for the purpose of challenging the board's decision. Therefore, on the advice of legal counsel for the POA, we will be unable to respond to your comments regarding short-term rentals at this time, and we hope you understand. So with that, we're going to have some ground rules, and these ground rules will continue not just for this board meeting or any other chat as well. So we're going to leave those in there, and there's going to be one additional one, especially for today, that prior to coming to the microphone, we ask that you raise your hand, and Jim or myself will recognize you and ask you to come to the microphone to ask your question. Okay. With that.
Questions? Rob, you were here real early. You were here like 2:30, so I'll pick you first.
Thank you, board.
Nope, hold on.
There we go. There it is.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, yeah. So we are asking just that each person, what you're about to do, give your name. We're going to give each person 2 minutes to speak. If we have time left over, we'll go to the next person after that. We'd like to keep this civil, not have people talking one another. And if these rules get out of hand, we'll just stop the meeting until we can get back in control. So Rob, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't need 2 minutes. Good afternoon. My name is Rob Kurtzreiter. My wife and I own a home. It's a family home at 94 Naquad Court. And we love Conisty Falls. It's become sacred ground for our home over the years. And I was going to address the elephant in the room, but Mr. Ziegler's already done that. So thank you very much. I would like to go on record. I'm a part of a large group of homeowners that does not agree with the recent interpretation of the declarations, and we're working diligently to determine our best course of action in respect of the members that are here today and the time allotted for the meeting. I just want to let you know that we don't plan on discussing that here today at this quarterly meeting, and thank you very much, and best of luck with everything, and thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Rob. Yes, yes, ma'am. You're next. I think that microphone should be okay for you. If not, I can move. Oh, you okay? Got it?
Sorry.
That's okay. No problem. No worries.
I'm an,
There you go.
actually, because I'm an invalid,
No, you're
I
not.
haven't brought this up to a large forum. I have two matters that I'd like the board to address. The first thing is the boards announcing Conisty Falls at our entrances are extremely beautiful, very classy, elegant, in excellent taste, which is more than I would say for this place. But we cannot see them. They do not show up.
You're talking about the signs themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
It is a very small electrical matter to either put a projector on the lettering or whatever. And we came home last night, and again, you know, the lighting all around the board is there. The little waterfall sign shows up, but the words Conisty Falls are invisible. It's all right for me. I know where I live. But, you know, for any guests, particularly now the nights are getting dark and everything, you cannot see that lettering. It just seems to me this is a design glitch, very easily rectified. And whoever takes care of these things, I think it would be an easy thing to address. The second thing that I would like to tell you all, and you all may shout at me, I don't care. I'm 83, I don't care, you can shout at me. We have built this massive wellness. I have no idea how many trees you took down to do it, a lot. And the fact that while COP28 is going on, there is no renewable energy. It's just a disgrace. And don't tell me, I have written to the committee and got a very sniffy reply. I am from Israel, where you can't get a building permit without solar panels. We are on the same latitude as Israel here. We have enough sun. There is not a scrap of shade over that new building. And the fact that there are no solar panels or no geothermal, no nothing, is not an example to our children and our grandchildren. And just want you all to know that I am very, very upset about this. I won't live very much longer, but my children and grandchildren will be living in Carnoustie, and we should be working harder at this.
Thank you. So the sign, yes, we are aware of that. And I'm actually working with the designer of the sign to see if there's another color scheme we can use for the lettering. I don't want to say we're a promise, but we were hoping that the metal behind the sign would actually, it's the same type of metal, I forget the name of that they use down at Brevard College, and it's supposed to get really, really dark, like almost black, which would make the letters look better, but it's probably going to take too long. So we got to find a faster way to do that. The second part, I mean, I hear what you're saying. You know, we did look at the analysis of solar, and the return on investment is just so long that I personally would have a hard time justifying for the community as a whole, saying, are you willing to spend X knowing you're not going to get your money until Y? We actually talked to, when we did the pool, when we were working with the pool contractors talking about heating potential, we talked about geothermal. And again, not just the return on your investment, but the ability to heat the pool as quickly as we'd want to, especially now that we're keeping it open longer. You just wouldn't be able to do it efficiently. So it's not that we don't think about it or care about it, we do, but then we have to make a business decision at some point. And so that's where we got to where we are on those two issues. Okay, more questions? I can't see. Oh, Tom. Well, he's going to go up to the mic. Or I can. Well, actually, you can just.
Thank you. My name is Tom Purdy. I've lived in Conistea for about 17 years, way too long. I'm getting old. My question is to the Finance Committee. I'm interested in knowing how the equity portion of what we have is invested. Is it in mutual funds and individual stocks, or a combination of both? Thank you.
So I don't know. I can go back to the slide. Oh, go ahead, Bob. I love it.
Hello. There are three portfolios. One's called CS for short term, CM for midterm, CL for long term. There is equity positions in the two latter, the midterm and the long term. In the midterm, it's still weighted very heavily towards cash and short-term instruments like short-term treasuries or something. In the longer term, you do have a little bit more of an equity position, and none of it is invested in an individual stock. It is a mix of different mutual funds that have equity positions or bond funds, something like that. So it's a relatively very conservative portfolio, even at that CL, which is a longer term view of investing. Did I get that right, Craig?
All mutual funds.
Yeah, it's all mutual. We don't invest in individual stocks.
We'll let Craig answer if he's willing to. I can answer.
Yeah, okay. So the question was, oh, loud person here.
Right. On finance.
Yeah, it's mutual funds and exchange traded funds. If you know what those are, a lot of you probably invest in those too. Not individual stocks. It's in the charter or the rules that we won't invest in individual stocks. And the portfolio in terms of what it invests in are also somewhat regulated with a chart that you can find in the board policies. Yeah. If you didn't know, we employ a professional manager to manage the portfolio. It's a registered investment advisor. They are required to have a fiduciary responsibility to their client, and they make the individual decisions as to which mutual funds or exchange traded funds to invest in and in what quantity.
Yes, sir.
Name and address.
Yes, I'll hand this off to you, and if you do name and address would be great.
Hello, I'm Steve Walker, 17 Sequoia Court, been here 6 years. I'd like to somewhat amplify on what this gentleman here in front of me brought up earlier and that you added to, sir. Thank you. I'd like to get an understanding, if I can, of it, and maybe it was shown, so maybe I missed it, on what this year's growth year to date has been in those surplus reserve funds. Further, what they have they been over the past 5 years? And with the treasury bills paying 4.5%, some 5% these days, would it be worthwhile to consider shifting more out of mutual funds into T-bills at this point in time? Secondly, on another topic, and the lady referred to it earlier today, I'd like to know how many CFPOA or owned lots we do have in total, and how many, please, are considered to be buildable. Those are my points. Thank you.
I'll come around this way. Thank you, sir. So I think I can answer both questions, but Craig.
Slide back up, Jim.
Okay, Craig or Bob can correct me if wrong. So we can't give you a 5-year number because this has only been going on for about a little over a year, where we had this new investment policy. So anything prior to a year ago was strictly held in the bank, and we're getting like 0.1 to 1% interest because that's all the investment policy allowed us to do. So starting a year ago, when the new investment policy went in place, that's when we had some more leverage to invest. So over the last year, which is pretty much when this went in place, we've have a return on our money of 4.5%. The reality is, I don't know the number, probably 80% of our money right now is, give or take, you'll see in fixed income or cash and equivalents. So 81% is not in equities. And so that's why you're seeing that number, because we are invested heavily right now in T-bills because of the return rate on 4.5%, 5%. So that's where most of our money is right now. Because why take the risk when you can make 5% with no risk, assuming that you still think the government is safe. But anyway, second question is, POA lot. So when it gets to the POA lots, I'm not sure we had that number on the slide anyway, did we? Right. Yeah. So there are approximately we're just going to use a number, 500 and change, 520, let's say, of CFPOA lots. Of that, we think realistically 60 would be, I'd say, are considered relatively buildable. The rest of them are very extreme. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but it most likely won't be done. But you are seeing people that are willing to invest in the infrastructure to make a house work if they want to build it on that lot. So it's not that it's unbuildable. It's just is it realistic that someone's going to spend the money to build it? To build a $500,000 house, probably not. But if they can spend $300,000 on the infrastructure and build a $1.6 million house, then that makes some sense to them. So that's what's happening. That's what we're seeing happen a little bit. Oh, and there was another, and then there's roughly 300 individually owned lots, give or take. Thank you. Yep.
I would commend you for your question and
Name, address.
Oh, sorry, Christian Brutzer, 131 Galuyasti Court. Yeah, So Jacqueline, I would commend you on your comment, and I really would like the board to revisit this one more time. And I really take a little bit of umbrage to your answer, Jim, because in this community, we make a lot of decisions for many years that make no commercial sense, but we believe that it enhances the livability and so on. You mentioned a COP 28. Our community is under threat if we have drought conditions. Our community is under threat if we not do our part. Now, to say that it just didn't make commercial sense, then why do we have a clubhouse with entertainment and everything that runs a deficit? Why do we have a golf that runs a deficit? That doesn't carry an argument in my point. Secondly, we have the possibility to talk to third parties to put a solar system on the roof and pay nothing. And after a certain period of time, ownership of that solar system would come to us, normally when there's still a lot of life in it. So frankly speaking, do the right thing and think about it.
Oh yeah, I'm not discounting. Yeah, no, I'm not discounting at all. And you're right, there is a big roof. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Gruber. Give your name anyway, even though I know who you are.
Yeah, my name's Greg Gruber. I live at 69 Ewell Holly. My wife and I, Sue, have been permanent residents here for 3 years. My question kind of relates to, Jim, what you said on this year's actuals. You said that since we've moved the grill upstairs, that we've saved about 50% in basically labor costs. My question is, what happened to those people? Are they still working with us? Did you let them go, or did you extend out their work, which basically, kind of lowers their overall pay structure? My other question, this is mundane, but you said that there's you're over budget $45,000 on asphalt. Did you adjust your 24 budget to take that into account?
Yeah, the best we can. I'll answer the second question first. Yeah, as best we can. I mean, we always try to guesstimate whether it be electricity, water, and asphalt or oil. What do we think is going to happen next year? So we assume that oil is going to be a little bit more next year than it is right now. That we might go back to where it was, but hopefully it'll go the other way. But we did adjust on our road maintenance. So the first question about the labor scenario is, labor is always a flowing thing. We have not laid anyone off or fired anybody. I mean, we've had some people who've left on their own because they went back to school or whatever the case may be. And with this new hours of operation, we've extended hours. So we just added hours. So the people who were working the grill have just moved over up to here. So there hasn't been, I don't think, and Lance, you might know better, I don't think there's been any personal direct impact, except for as we go into December and January and February, traditionally, it's our slowest months. So we're always going to have the least, from a gratuity perspective, they make the least amount of money this time of year. But I think they're actually probably making more than they are now this year than they were last year at the same time. Because the check cover is higher than it was when you just had the grill open. Correct. Because remember, all the tips go directly to the servers. Oh. Were you saying I couldn't see her or wasn't paying attention?
I'm Renee Avery. I'm at 60 Dotso Court. And I have a question about our amenity fees. Why don't we charge amenity fees on lots at purchase? Right. Is there a reason that we don't do that instead of waiting for the certificate of occupancy?
Yes, we actually looked at that a few years ago to have a smaller amenity fee when someone purchases a lot. And it sort of died through the process through the finance committee and everything else, because there's so few that are turning hands of the private lots. It might be something to look at again, because we have the moratorium. I know Donna mentioned during the build out task force, one of the goals or ideas was that if you could limit CFPOA lots, it may help sell some of the private lots. I think the dilemma there right now is, from talking to some of the builders and realtors that I've talked to, is that there is a disconnect between some of the private lot owners, what they think their lot is worth versus what it's really worth. So when they come to talk to us and realize that we work our lots through either Consi Follow Realty or Looking Glass, we think we have a better analysis of what we think the lots are worth, so we can actually make a deal happen. So it really hasn't worked to our advantage that the private lots are selling yet, because there's still a big disconnect between what they think it's worth and the buyers think it's worth. Oop, let me go. Sorry. I'll let you hold it. I'll answer that.
Okay, but we do have a lot of members that do own lots and they use the amenities, but are not paying the amenity fee. They're paying the assessment, but we all pay an amenity fee that's supporting this growth initiative, our wellness center and our pool build out. So just my thought on that. Thank you.
And one of the other things that was talked about, and it's at a initial level right now, but I don't think it came out as one of the final initiatives of the Build That Task Force. Dave may correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a discussion there too that for at least CFPOA lots, we might want to start thinking about putting a restriction on it, which a lot of communities do have, that if you buy the lot, you have to build within a certain amount of time. Because then therefore, that amenity is coming in whatever it is, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the case may be. So that's something that from the POA lot perspective, we might think about, but we couldn't force that on someone who's already owned the lot to do that.
Hang on a minute.
Yes. I saw my hand up somewhere. Oh, sorry. You're on the same. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Jane Ballwoods, 898 Tisquith Circle. I don't know if I can read and hold this. I wanted to just make a comment regarding the short-term rentals. When we initially looked at Conisty over 10 years ago, we also looked at several other areas, and we specifically liked the Conisty area because of its residential feel. And several of the other areas did not have that feel. And there are several sections in the documents that we signed when we purchased our property that to us seemed to clearly state that the character of Conisty Falls was residential in nature. An example, and I'll just read it. In addition, the further intent of this article is to preserve the character of Conisty Falls as a residential community of low intensity and with minimum disturbance to its occupants. Thank you very much, and I thank you for your efforts to keep the residential feel of Conisty Falls.
Oh boy. Oops.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Jeff Barbet. I live at 21 Guanos and Guanaf Court. And we moved here 8 years ago. And quite frankly, I've been very much at home here right from the beginning. Whenever budget matters came up, I would vote yes, almost without fail, overwhelmingly approve what was happening. And with good reason, but there's always a but. This last budget, there were a couple of things that stuck. I was looking it over and I said, yeah, I heard that. And somebody in my household said, you heard what? And I said, the fact that they're not going to prorate the fee for the new health facility over here. They're going to ask you to pay the full year right away, right in the beginning. And whether they open up in January or whenever, they're going to charge the full amount. Now, I can afford the full amount. And I just paid my bill. But it's the little things. Okay, and the walking fee at the golf course also, I said, wait a second. Golf has gone up 25%. I'm trying to walk so my heart doesn't decide to stop working. And now they want to charge me an extra $5 to walk. Thank you for however that got dismissed. But, you know.
Got deferred.
Deferred, yeah, deferred.
For conversation next year.
It's like ridiculous to me that, you know.
It's a principle thing, but I'll talk about, I'll
principle
answer it.
thing, and it's like either 20 grand more or 6 grand. Don't insult some of the members by being, you know, to nickel and dime them like that. You know, nickel and dime people from outside. They don't replace their divots and they could care less. Okay, but we do. So that's my little complaint, but you still get my vote. But, you know, Conisty Falls is not about the people who will buy in here. It's more about the people who do live here already. And, you know, every time I hear somebody say, well, somebody who's going to spend $2 million for a house is going to expect amenities. Well, of course they are, but they also can drive around here and look and talk to people. And the best reason to move here is because of the people who live here. That's my little.
Yep. So the first part, so we had a discussion about the whole wellness center, and basically because of the way the timing was going to be, we did not prorate it, but the $75, which is less than anyone was paying before, will allow you access to the current fitness center now. So you still will have access to the current fitness center between now and when the other one opens. So you are getting a full 12 months of use, whether it's the old one or the new one.
Now, I remember initially that was not going to be, there was going to be no charge really to the people who finance the entire building.
Correct.
And what's the?
Well, no, we never said no charge. We always said there'd be a small administrative
Small
charge.
minimum little charge. So if my wife and I want to go, it's
50, right.
Right now, nothing stops anybody from saying, you know, we really need 250 apiece. You know. Yeah.
But
just back because
you know the nickel and dime. The argument I would make there is, you know, obviously no one wants to build a $4 million building and create a new, better amenity and then just start trying to overcharge it so you won't enjoy it. I mean, that doesn't make much sense either. So, you know, and as far as the golf scenario goes, you know, we're hitting everybody, whether it be the members or the outside. The outside people are paying 100% more than they were just 4 years ago. And a lot of that is because of, you know, lack of a better way of saying it, it's the condition and the product that we have is so much better than it was 3 or 4 years ago. Sure you do, but so do the other 90% of the people that don't play golf, right? So who should be paying their portion? You know, I mean, that's going to be the never-ending argument.
We charge people extra for the privacy of their berm. You know,
Well, when they bought their house, that berm was there probably, right? So they bought that as part of their home. So
we charge extra for the dam.
yeah. No, you could. Right. I agree with that. I would love just to have the one fee and be done with it, right? Okay, your 2 minutes are up, by the way, John. Yeah. Right. Yep. Any more questions? Hey, Dan, yes.
Thank you. Dan Mady, 230 Solola Lane. In light of the rising assessment fee, it's come to our attention that there is a not insignificant number of people in the community who do not pay the annual assessment. So I would like to know what that number of homeowners are. What does that represent in actual lost revenue per year? And what is being done to recoup those monies? What's the board's position on that? Thank you.
Yep. So that's a very good question because it is a significant scenario. So there is approximately, and I'm going to just use approximate numbers, it's approximately 200 lots, undeveloped lots. And that's why I'm going to say undeveloped lots.
Unimproved lots.
Unimproved lots. Because basically, right now, as of today, because we had one, there was one improved lot person who hadn't paid their assessment for 2023. Now they're caught up. So from an improved lot perspective, we have basically 0% delinquency. From the privately owned lots, there's around 200 that have not paid an assessment. Some of those for many years. Any of them that are more than 2 years old have been liened. So we have a formal court lien on that property. The dilemma is that to act upon that lien, you're looking anywhere from $6,500 to $10,000 per lot to actually foreclose on the lot, to go through the legal process to foreclose. So we are looking at potentially looking at some of those lots and saying if the lot has some value, right, of more than $6,500 or $10,000, then it makes sense potentially to foreclose on it, get it back in inventory, and try to sell it. The problem with that model is that just because I get it back in inventory doesn't mean I'm going to sell it a week from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, or 10 years from now. So that money up front to process the lien is lost money until I can sell that lot again. So realistically, if we tried to lien every property and foreclose on every property, you're talking, probably $200,000 of monies that you'd have to spend to do that. And then you'd have to, sell enough lots to recoup that money. So it's something we look at all the time. But again, you have to look at it as a business, and does it make sense to spend the money not knowing whether you're going to get the money back or not? Or we'd have to add a line item in the budget going into next year and say, okay, we're going to add $200,000 to the operating budget so that we can lien all these properties, which raises your assessment in between the time that we lien on it and then we get the lot back and sell it.
I think the math is more like 2 million instead.
I mean, sorry, 2 million, sorry. 200,000, I said that would have been a great deal. I'll do it. Numbers, what's the 29? I mean, you're roughly $600,000 each year, yeah. But like I said, we are definitely looking at least looking at some lots that might be, decent enough that we can sell them. That might make sense to, do a handful in a year, thinking that we can pull these into inventory and sell them in a relatively short period of time.
And we are looking at less. We are considering some less cost prohibitive ways to pursue those. It's on our radar. It was a recommendation from the Build Out Task Force. I just didn't cover it on the earlier slide. But there may be alternatives that wouldn't cost us $5,000 or $6,000 per lot to get them back into our inventory. We just don't know that yet, but we are exploring it.
Are those people that own those lots enjoying?
No. You cannot keep them off the property. They have the legal right to access their lot, but like their barcodes are deactivated, so they have to check in at the security gate, and we know they're accessing the community, but I can't stop them from coming in. But if they come in here and try to use their member number, those are all suspended too. So no, they can't. Can't. No. No. And to be honest with you, I would say if you look at we've done. If you look at the ownership title and you start doing some legwork on it, I would say, if not 50%, at least 35 to 40% of these things are tied up somehow in some type of legal process, whether it's death, divorce, bankruptcy, so they wouldn't even be easy to lien and foreclose because they all have some type of issue. That's why they're what they are. I mean, we have houses in here that don't have an owner. I mean, they have an owner on title, but those owners are dead and no one's taking them over. And you can probably drive by and see which ones those are. Nancy.
I'm Nancy Sharsik, Nancy Patrick Sharsik, excuse me. I've been here 31 years and served on the board, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, my main question is on these unimproved lots where they haven't paid the assessment, they probably haven't paid their taxes either. And a few years ago, there was a problem, and the county ended up selling the lots on the courthouse steps. It was 20 years ago. And we don't want that to happen again. So whatever the committee is doing, make sure you include the county.
So We do, not every month, but basically every couple months, I'll go and do my own analysis on the website and look at that as well, and just see if they've been staying current on their taxes. 99% of them are. The good news is some of them that aren't, we've probably had 2 or 3 in the last year that have went and been sold on the county steps. And all those people, all those came to us ahead of time to know what the owed amount was, and we were able to negotiate something that both parties agreed to. So at least we got something instead of nothing. Yes.
Christian Brutzer, 131 Galoyasti Court. I'm in the middle of something like that for the last 2 years. And the county stated clearly they will not sell anything without the administration of CFPO says yes to it. Unfortunately.
Yeah, we have a pretty good rapport and relationship with the county tax collector. So they'll normally, before they're getting to the point of going to the steps, they'll call us and say, what's the deal with this account? But they almost have to have someone who wants to buy a lot before they'll even, they don't do it on their own. They've had lots that have owned taxes for years, and hey, I'm interested in that. Are they up to date? And if they say no, you have to say, well, I'm willing to buy it. And then they may, go to the next step.
Mary Ann Sawyer, 75 Kanaskawa. Just a short comment on the short-term rentals. And I agree that that's a problem, and appreciate the work done on it. A few years back, we had a family reunion, and our house is small. We couldn't handle a family reunion, and I rented a place over on Lake Wanteska. I would like to see that considered, the member-to-member renting.
Thank you. Is this for you or for her? Well, let me give it to you. Because otherwise
It's for the people online that need to hear it too.
Assuming they're still online.
My name is Christopher Boyd. My wife Renee and I moved to Coniston Falls 3 years ago, and we found our forever home. I read the rule book page by page 3 times. I read the governing documents page by page 3 times. We called it our home because it is a homeowner-based community. We've made many friends here, and we love it. And you may not have an Airbnb next year right now, but it's an aging demographic. Look at your neighbors around you. I appreciate so much you enforcing our governing documents, and I thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I appreciate everyone coming out today, and participating in the meeting. And